Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. There are some extra seats that we just put out in the back, so if you don't have a seat, there should be some seating available. Looks like there's also some up here as well. My name is Jeremiah Clark. I'm the chairman of the Sullivan County Young Republicans. On behalf of the Young Republicans, I would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight and joining us. We do have a couple of announcements to make up front before we begin the debate. But first, we have a special treat tonight. Boy Scout Troop 284 has joined us tonight. They're working on some merit badges, so they've come out to see what a civic political debate looks like. So we're going to have them lead us in a prayer and the pledge. So if I can please ask Iden to come up to the front and lead us in a prayer. And if everyone would please stand.
Hello. Would you all please bow your heads? Lord, we are thankful that we live in a country where we can elect our officials to represent us in our local, state, and federal governments, that they should help us and lead us into the future, and we hope that you, Lord, will be there with us for whatever it holds. And we are grateful that we can be here to learn more about those officials that we should elect so that we can make a more educated decision. Lord, please be here in this civic debate, that you should help both candidates and be with both of them, and with all the people in the audience that they may make a decision with their heads, a smart decision that will help us all and lead us into the future along with those representatives. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Now I would like to ask the rest of the Boy Scout troop to come up and lead us in the pledge.
Scouts, flag face, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2.
Thank you. I'd like to quickly say thank you to the sponsors of tonight's debate. The event venue has been sponsored by State Representative Timothy Hill. On the back of your program, you'll also find a list of other sponsors who have helped in fundraising tonight for the Young Republicans. If you did not receive a copy of the program, this list will also be online on the live stream that's occurring, and we will also be sharing it on Facebook and social media in the coming weeks to come. Just a quick announcement about another upcoming event that's happening soon. Next Thursday, April the 19th, is the Sullivan County Reagan Day Dinner. It's not too late to get tickets for that, so if you're interested in attending that event, please see me or any other local elected official tonight. There's several of them here. After that event, the Young Republicans will be having an after-party event where several of the Tennessee gubernatorial candidates will be in attendance and joining us, and so you'll be free to approach them and ask them questions about what their plans as the hopeful future governor of the state will be. The price to attend that event will be $15 for members of the Sullivan County Young Republicans, but non-members can also attend for $25. And you can get your ticket for that online on our Facebook page, Sullivan County Young Republicans. There's a link to Eventbrite where you can purchase your ticket. Also, one quick other announcement. We are helping the other counties in our area grow Young Republican groups as well. Right now, we're active in growing the Washington County Young Republicans group. If you live in Washington County and you're between the ages of 18 and 40, or if you know anyone who lives in Washington County and is between the ages of 18 and 40, please see us tonight and let us know. We would love to reach out to those individuals. We're hoping that within the next month, we can have an active Young Republican group up and running in Washington County. So we're going to go ahead and get started now with the debate. So just a few announcements for how the debate will be structured. We did a coin toss beforehand to determine who would speak first, and the winner was Jim Belgary. He will be speaking first tonight. After that, we will be alternating as to who goes first on each of the questions. There are 8 questions, and the candidates will have 4 minutes to speak on each of those. They will be strictly held to that time limit, and will not be going past that. We would like to ask the audience that there not be any comments from the audience during the debate, and so please respect that. So I'm now going to ask Cody Woods, another Sullivan County Young Republican member, to come up and lead us in our debate.
Thank you, Jeremiah. All right, so we had our coin toss backstage, and Mr. Belgary won, so he will speak first. Mr. Belgary, why do you believe that you are qualified for this position?
Oh, wow. It's quite the audience, and I appreciate you being here. I'm an engineer, and let me share with you how you can tell an extroverted engineer. You may already know this answer, but the extrovert engineer looks at the toes of your shoes when he's talking to you, not his own. But I am not that guy. I have not been an introverted engineer, really, I guess, for all of my career. And certainly my wife, who is here, and my family who are here, certainly know that introvert is not applied to Jim Belgary. I am a graduate of one of the most prestigious engineering schools in the Midwest. When I went there, it was called the Missouri School of Mines. Before I left, the name was changed to the University of Missouri at Rolla. It was University of Missouri's main engineering campus. And since that time, they've had another name change. It's now the Missouri University for Science and Technology. I have over 45 years of engineering practice in firms and organizations in the geotechnical and materials engineering disciplines. The practice has included nearly 40 years of practice right here in Sullivan County. Local experience includes virtually every major project within the fence at our major local industry, including the Pactolus landfill. Local road projects, and there are many, include the rock cut design, rock slope design on I-26 going up through Sam's Gap. Throughout my career, I've served my employers both as engineer and manager. Positions have included chief engineer, regional manager, vice president, and a founding director of the firm from which I retired. Outside of my employment, I have served various organizations such as TSPE, American Society of Civil Engineers, just to name a few. The Tennessee Society of Professional Engineer honored me in the early 2000s as Engineer of the Year, a statewide award. And then later on, a few years later, I was honored with the Distinguished Engineer of the Year award, again, a statewide. I'm a registered professional engineer in Tennessee and 3 adjacent states. That registration requires that I not rely on old engineering practice, but that I have at least 16 to 24 hours of continuing ed every year. So I'm not an old engineer, I'm an engineer that's becoming new every year. I appreciate your vote, and I thank you very much. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Bilgeri. All right, Mr. Murray, why do you believe that you're qualified for this position?
First, I'd like to say I'm not an engineer. Qualifications for a highway commissioner. The qualifications come through the state of Tennessee. You've got to apply, and then the board goes over your resume you send in, and they qualify you. And I've met those qualifications. Other qualifications. I started out in 1980 as a laborer, and I worked my way up through the highway department until around 2000, maybe 1998, I became assistant section foreman of Section 6, which includes Colonial Heights, Sullivan Gardens, Cooks Valley, East and West Carters Valley, Beach Creek area. And during that 37 years, there's not a job I haven't done or helped do. And that's some of my qualifications. Another duties of a highway commissioner is buying equipment, managing employees, and the employees are the greatest asset that any department, company that you have. If you have good employees and you treat your employees like you want to be treated yourself, the productivity will be there. So you need to rely a lot on your employees. The other thing I'm proud of is during my 37 years, I've met a lot of people in the section I worked in. Most of these people not only know me by my first name, the majority of them had my cell phone. If they needed something, night or day, they called me. They know they could always get a hold of me. If they had a problem, I would try to help them. Sometimes you couldn't help them. You know, we might have had right-of-way issues or whatever. But at least I tried. And that's all they're asking for is just to put forth an effort to help them. So I'm Scott Murray, and I appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Next question, future county projects. What are your plans for addressing the issue of needing new or improved roads for the new county high school? And Mr. Murray, you'll go first on this.
Well, my opinion, this is just my opinion. The new school was not needed or wanted by the citizens of Sullivan County. And yes, a safe road is very important, not only for the school, but most of all for the safety of the students that are going to attend there. But It is not the highway department's responsibility to use their fund balance to fund this road. This is a BOE project. The road should have been part of the plan from the get-go. No matter what kind of building you've got, no matter where it's at, if you don't have a road to it, what good is it? So, do I think the new school needs a road? Yes, indeed. Do I think Sullivan County Highway Department should use their fund balance to build the road? Absolutely not. A few years ago, well, 10 years ago, we could have went in there as a highway department. We could have designed the road. We could have built the road. Now, with depleted personnel through retirement and other reasons, the road's going to have to be contracted out. So why use highway department funds to do this? And I'm against it, right or wrong. I just don't think Sullivan County Highway Department funds should be used in this project.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Future county projects. Mr. Belgeri, what are your plans for addressing the issue of needing new or improved roads for the new county high school?
Thank you. The new high school is a fact. I can't stand here and say to you that I favored that, but it is a fact. It's been a fact for some, 15 months now? And during that 15 months, I personally have been involved in trying to figure out how to get to that school. I've looked at multiple routes, looked at a route up Shipley Ferry, looked at a route using the existing right-of-way in Lynn Road, and in my engineering judgment, there is only one route into that school, and that is an improvement of the right-of-way along Jericho Drive. That's not my opinion, that's my engineering assessment. There's not an option of not building a road. There has to be a road. I think people can have opinions whether or not the highway department should or can fund it. That question is really being addressed to the Sullivan County Commission, and it will be voted on a week from today, as I understand it. And if the Sullivan County Commission says yes, the highway department will build that road. The design of that road is very important. It's going to have to be a road that is much better than what's currently there. We currently envision a 3-lane road with a center lane reversible for buses. It'll be a high-class, high-tech road and suitable for its intended use. As I mentioned earlier, I've been here for about 40 years. 1978 is when I moved here, and there was a school just recently been built in 1978, and it was on a substandard road as well. And the Sullivan County Court, it was called the court at that time, and the Sullivan County Highway Department, as well as other entities, made sure that a good road was in place for that school. It's called Moreland Drive, and it's been a real boon to everyone who uses it. As I say, people, I can't imagine anybody not accepting that that school is going to be there. The yellow iron is out there right now. They're moving earth. There's a big old growing pile of topsoil out there. So it's a reality. And to defer this project and argue about it any longer is really not an option either. That school's going to open in 2020, and there should be a road there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belgieri. Our next question will be on the topic of relations with other government bodies. In your opinion, does the Highway Department have a good relationship with the County Commission, and how do you intend to maintain and or improve that relationship? And Mr. Belgieri, you'll go first.
Thank you, Cody. The question has posed specific to the County Commission. The County Commission was, when I came into this job 4 years ago, was probably the only mystery to me about the job. I knew how to live within budgets, how to develop budgets. I knew about the technical work of the Highway Department, based on my 45 years of engineering. But the County Commission, dealing with a legislative body, was kind of a mystery. And I was coming into a relationship between a county commission and a department of the county that was strained. It was a little confused. There had been so many issues between prior commissioners, highway commissioners, and the county commission that I was a little bit perplexed. I believe that the approach I took, which was to be present really virtually every time they met, and to be available virtually every time they called and virtually every time they came by the office, was the right approach. And somewhere around at the end of my first year, I realized that this county commission has a structure of its own. They have 3 what's called standing committees, and I discovered that, nobody told me this, but I discovered that those smaller committees, each consisting of about 8 members, were very influential in the whole committee, the whole commission. I also discovered that the executive committee really had what you would call oversight over the highway department. So I made sure, and I continue to make sure, that I'm at those committee meetings. The other part that I think sets me apart and allows me to enjoy a good, if not a great, relationship with the county commission is integrity, openness. There are no secrets, honesty. And this is something that I think commissioners, even those perhaps in this room, would probably note that that at least is a difference between myself and the old highway department. So I intend to continue that relationship. Actually, there's probably going to be some very large changes in the county commission. There's a number of commissioners not running. There's a tremendous number. I think there's 70 Republicans on the ballot, and they're not all for county commission, but many of them are. So that, that will be my approach toward the county commission in the future. Total honesty, total openness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bilgeri. Continuing on the topic of relations with other government bodies, in your opinion, does the Highway Department have a good relationship with the County Commission? And how do you intend to maintain and or improve that relationship, Mr. Murray?
Relationship between County Commission and the Highway Department. I can just speak with my relationship as a section foreman for about 10 or 15 years. I had the pleasure of working with about 10 or 12 different county commissioners. And we all work for the same people. That's the people of Sullivan County. If somebody's got a complaint, most likely they call their county commissioner, who should be able to call, turn right around and call the highway commissioner. And I've had some commissioners tell me that getting hold of the highway commissioner is hard to do. I know when I was foreman, the county commissioners that I worked with, they had my cell phone number, they called me. We met, looked at the problem. If we could do anything, we did. If we couldn't, we told the property owner we couldn't do anything. And as far as the whole body of the county commission, I don't know how they work. All I can speak of is the county commissioners that I had the pleasure of working with. Integrity. It's the second time I've heard that word, integrity. A few weeks ago, the highway commissioner at the Bristol Republicans Women meeting said that he had restored integrity at the highway department. And some people wasn't happy with that. Well, I'm one of them. I'm not happy with that comment. I was working there when he said there was no integrity at the highway department. And I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this. There's a lot of honest, hard-working, God-fearing people that work for the highway department. There's not a thing wrong with their integrity. You can't judge the last couple of road commissioners we might have had. You can't use their integrity to talk about the whole department. That's not right. And are there some mad? Absolutely. I'm mad. I don't think the comment was called for, and I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. On the topic of the budget, what are your plans for maintaining fiscal responsibility for your department, and do you feel that you are adequately funded? Mr. Murray, you'll go first.
Budget. As I've said before, the highway department has got a top-heavy managerial staff at the highway department. They've taken shovels off the streets, boots off the streets, and moved them into office. And at the end of the day, there's no workers left to do the work. The $5.4 million in surplus, they're wanting to use $3 million of that to build this new road for the school, which is fine, but not to the expense of you, the taxpayers who drive these roads. Just drive the roads around your neighborhood and see what kind of shape they're in. That's all you have to do. Just drive a 10-mile radius around your neighborhood. You could take that $3 million and do a whole lot of paving in Sullivan County, a whole lot. Equipment. We could take some of that money from the budget and buy new equipment. You can always use new equipment. I know when I was section foreman, we've got some dump trucks that are still in use that really shouldn't be on the road. Some single axle dump trucks, and all that money can be used with that. So the budget part, like I said, I hate to keep bringing up the new road, but why take highway department funds that's in our budget to build a new road when we got roads that we can't maintain right around where we live?
All right. Also, I would ask for the audience to please maintain silence during the answering of the questions for the candidates. Mr. Belgeri, in regards to budget, what are your plans for maintaining fiscal responsibility for your department, and do you feel that you are adequately funded?
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to clarify that my opponent has misinterpreted perhaps what I said. The restoration of integrity in the highway department was at the top. That's where the problems were, and that's where the solution was. And that's where the solution continues to be. I'm not besmirching any of our employees. Our employees, I found when I got here, were excellent. I appreciate them. The question of budget came to I think a question of organization. And organization is what I do. I can tell you for sure that there are probably 4 people that are continuously or consistently in the office. Myself, my administrative assistant, our dispatcher, and that's about it. The other employees are foremen, exactly the same level of authority and responsibility that my opponent had, and they are in the field. They're not section foremen, but they are in the field. So I reject that notion. But let's get back to the budget. When I entered office, there was a fund balance in the highway department that had been developed over who knows how many years, maybe 37 years, I don't know. It was $2.9 million. In my administration, that fund balance at the end of fiscal year 2018 is expected to be $6 million, been doubled. So the question being, is there enough funding? There's certainly enough funding to do what had been done for the last however many years. But it was not managed properly. Otherwise, everybody would have been able to to develop a $3 million surplus over a 4-year period. So it's a question of managing what you have. It's really not a question of how many miles of roads you paved, although I could certainly read chapter and verse there. It's how you manage what you have. Now, I'm not going to claim responsibility for a $3 million surplus over 4 years. I'm going to tell you that it was at least in part due to excellent management, financial management, but it was also due to falling fuel prices. It was due to very mild winters and other factors that the highway department in the past has considered kind of fixed prices. You don't want to run out of salt, and you don't want to run out of overtime to deal with roads. So I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Miltieri. On the subject of accountability, how will you promote and enforce employee accountability, and will you implement and or maintain any type of merit system to reward or promote a positive and productive work environment? Mr. Belgieri, you'll go first.
Accountability is essential in any organization. 4 years ago, on the second day of my tenure in the office, I met with every employee in a group meeting, not one-on-one, and I laid out my expectations for every employee. That is, every employee except for the foreman. They had their own special set of expectations. The expectations that I laid out are right here. Be at work, be about work, meaning don't come in thinking this is a adult daycare or thinking that this is somewhere to come in and get into some horseplay. Be clean, meaning don't do drugs, don't mess with them, and be willing to do new and different things. And everybody here heard that. That's all I was expecting. My administration has followed those expectations to a T, and they're really quite simple and yield a result that the citizens of Sullivan County expect. Something else that's new in the department. In my second year there, every employee was given a performance review. This is something that those who had been there for 37 years or so had never experienced before. Every reviewed employee was rated against the expectations I just laid out. And they were given a numerical grade. Totally unknown, unprecedented. Foremen were evaluated in a likewise manner with obviously higher expectations due to their higher responsibilities and compensation. Again, employees with 34 years experience. I don't know what this was. I would note that during my tenure, there have been a few employees terminated, but they've been terminated because they didn't meet one of those expectations. There have been no employees terminated as a result of favoritism or who they were related to or what have you. Another aspect of accountability is it's been discussed at length on my opponent's posts and statements. The use of GPS monitoring. This is something that we established and set up for the proper application of our snow removal policies. These units are not used to spy on people. As a matter of fact, they've been used many more times to protect the people when they were reported as being gold bricking or messing around. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butcher. Mr. Murray, how will you promote and enforce employee accountability, and how will you implement and or maintain any type of merit system or reward to promote a positive and productive work environment?
Clarify something. I've not made no post or comments about the GPS system. I'll set that record straight right now. Somebody else may have posted it, but I sure did. Accountability. Each department in Sullivan County should be accountable. Who should they be accountable to? You, the people of Sullivan County. Through your tax dollars you pay. That's what funds these departments. So accountability, yes, we should be accountable to you, the taxpayers. As far as incentives to employees, I know the county commission last year passed a 3% pay raise to the employees. Well, my opponent, he withheld some of those pay raises because some of the guys didn't have their CDL driver's license. Some of these guys are mowing machine operators. We've got some excellent mowing machine operators at the highway department. That job doesn't require a CDL license. And the sad part of it is some of those guys can't even read and write. They would have a hard time taking and passing that test. I mean, just because you can't read and write don't mean you ain't got no pride. I've got my CDL driver's license, but I'm far from a truck driver. I'm no truck driver. I'll let you know that right up front. I think the department should promote within. There's a lot, like I've said before, there's a lot of good, hard-working men and women at the highway department that can do every job there if given the change. And if I'm elected, I will promise you this, I will promote within. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Mr. Murray, this topic's on existing road issues. How will you address the old Ford Town Road issue and or any other existing road issues in our county?
Well, the old Ford Town Road, that's been a thorn in the highway department's side for a long time. Back in 2004, I put a Band-Aid on that problem. It was just a Band-Aid. It lasted 15 years. Well, a few months ago, well, about 11 months ago, it fell off again. The road stayed closed for nearly 10 months without even a one lane so the people could get to church that live on the other side of the bridge there where the old Fort Town Road is. And I'll say this, the one-lane road should have been put in 2 or 3 days after it happened. Why wait nearly 10 months to put a one-lane road in? Maybe it's the fact that it was put in 3 weeks before the election. I don't know. But right now, the road's in. You can get through there. And the highway department done an excellent job putting that in. You can see As far as I've been there, I've been through there several times, and I can see no safety issues. And when this is repaired again, whether Mr. Belgieri repairs it or I repair it, it's just a Band-Aid. We can go in and we can fix it and fix it right. But who's to say that it's not going to fall again 50 foot down the road? Where it fell out this time, it's fell out other places down through there. What did we do? What did I do as a section foreman? I went in and repaired what was there. And yes, I did put a Band-Aid on it, but the Band-Aid lasted 15 years. So, and the one-lane road, like I said, should have been put in right after it happened. I believe if this hadn't been an election year where the one-lane road went in, I don't think so. But that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Mr. Belgieri, on existing road issues, how will you address the old Fordtown Road issue, and or any other existing road issues in the county?
We live in the mountains, in case nobody noticed. This mountainous terrain, in this mountainous terrain, we frequently have to deal with landslides and slope failures. Prior administrations have also dealt with these, but as my opponent has pointed out, they've done it by putting a Band-Aid on it. Specific to Old Fordtown, this was a landslide that occurred on private property. It occurred on CSX Railway property and took out our road, the county's road. Our department attempted to contact CSX for them to take care of their slide so that we could take care of our road, and that was when the delays started. That was the cause of our delay. It was our intention, my intention, to fix the entire road one time rather than spending money for a partial fix that wasn't really much more than a Band-Aid in itself. In the process, I've discovered that, and it took me a few months to discover this, that CSX doesn't even care about Old Fordtown Road. I've also discovered that in order for the county highway department to take care of that slide, we would have to be off of our right-of-way. The one-lane repair was all that could be done on our right-of-way. And it's pointed out to me not too many days ago that there's a article out there. You can Google it. Look under Baltimore landslide CSX. Very similar set of circumstances. Took 2 years. And I don't know if there were court cases involved or not. But it was my intention, my hope, to be able to make this repair without those things. And at the very time that I came to the realization that CSX was not coming to the table is when I made that one lane repair. We have other landslides in Sullivan County. We just completed one down in Section 6 as well. A very large slide on Hood Road. For those of you who know Hood Road, there are no ways around Hood Road. If that road had slid off entirely, we were able to keep one lane open. If that road had slid off entirely, there would have been a mess. So that was our focus, that was our priority at that time, keeping that lane open. We've built probably using techniques that were never before used, and they're not Band-Aids, using a retaining wall design that's affordable and inexpensive, and we're going to continue to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Belgier. This topic will be on equipment issues. Do you feel you have any concerns about the status of the department's current vehicle equipment fleet? What changes or improvements would you make in this regard, Mr. Belgier?
Thank you. The Highway Department in Sullivan County fields and maintains roughly, and these numbers might shock you, 140 pieces of rolling stock. I mean by that trucks and so forth, 140 pieces. We also field and maintain over 60 pieces of frontline equipment, from pavers, trailers, boom trucks, all the things associated with maintaining a 900-mile network of roads. The department operates an extensive maintenance facility to keep these vehicles running, and I believe it's the mission of the Highway Department, and specifically this maintenance department, to keep the things on the road as long as we can. That's the expectation of the Sullivan County citizenry. By the way, we do a great job of that too. When I came into office, there were a couple pieces of equipment just sitting there. We had our boom truck that is required to maintain trees, 75-foot boom truck. It was sitting there. Why was it sitting there? Well, I was told there wasn't enough budget to fix that thing. So our maintenance department got on it. A $5,000 part and some very smart mechanicking, and that thing, we've been running it since. Almost 3.5 years. We are intending to replace it before the end of this fiscal year, and it's going to be a trade-in, make somebody a good piece. In addition to rolling stock, we also have our own asphalt plant. This plant, as far as I can tell, was first conceived in the 1970s. Possibly was even off-site somewhere else at the time. This year, actually the beginning of last year, we started a major rehab of that plant. By sometime shortly after the beginning of the next fiscal year, that plant will be operating again, and we'll have a new heating system for the liquid asphalt, and we're not going to be finished with it. It's going to be a multi-year rebuild. For reasons that I might get into later, it's an important piece for the citizens of Sullivan County. In the last half of 17 and early 18, we were dealing with 6 trucks that the old department had bought. They bought on a 5-year lease. They barely made it to the end of the 5-year lease. They were underpowered, had all kinds of emissions problems, and fortunately, we were able to enter a new lease for 6 brand new Kenworth tandems. This is the kind of thing that needs to be done to keep the rolling stock up.
Thank you, Mr. Belger. Mr. Murray, on the topic of equipment issues, do you have any concerns about the status of the department's current vehicle and equipment fleet, and what changes or improvements would you make in this regard?
Well, I've been gone from the highway department. I retired in the last of July. While I was there, I will say that their equipment was pretty adequate. Some changes need to be made, yes. I know, here I go back to being a section foreman, but I would like to see more of these 4-wheel drive ton trucks bought for patching. Not only patching in the summer, in the winter months, you can push and saw a road twice as fast with the ton truck and do it in a whole lot safely manner than you can with the single axle dump truck. Asphalt plant. I know in the last few years the highway department has probably bought more asphalt than they've made, just because the plant has not been maintained like it should have been. If elected, I'd like to do some changes to this plant. First, I don't know if you're aware that we do a lot of state aid projects. In those projects, we have to buy a state aid mix. Who's to say that we've got a plant with a few modifications, we can make our own state aid mix? And I'd like to see that get done. We've got the men, we've got a guy there that works in, he's over the maintenance department there. He's over the mechanics. I call him Fuzz. But Fuzz has forgotten more about making of asphalt, how plants should run, than anybody I know. If we turn Fuzz loose on this plant and tell him that we want to modify the plant so we can run state aid mix, he's the man to do the job. The guys that work in the maintenance department, you go up there some of these winter months when we have a big snow. Just walk in there where those guys are working on this truck, on this equipment. They'll amaze you at the work they do. I remember the time when we was getting snows, like if it was 2009, we got like a foot of snow in an 8-hour period. And some of this wore out equipment that we had then was just on its last leg. But if you took a piece of equipment up there to the maintenance shop with a problem, they were right on it. They kept this equipment up and running when we needed it the most. So I want to commend the men that work in the shop up there. All the mechanics do a great job. Thank you.
Gentlemen, we will now move into closing remarks. Each candidate in closing will have 5 minutes to respond. Mr. Belger, we'll start with you. In closing, what remarks would you like to make to the audience?
Well, in closing, I'd like to say that comment about the shape of the roads. The shape of the roads is not an issue that has occurred in the last 4 years, ladies and gentlemen. It is not. This is a 900-mile network, and I haven't been out there tearing up roads. Sullivan County employees haven't been out there tearing up roads. The roads were in a condition of disrepair when I got here. Now, I want to point out that my opponent has taken a lot of time to post, or some of his people have taken time to post pothole pictures on the whatever, Facebook, Snapchat, Snapface, whatever it is. You know, some of those photos are just totally ridiculous. One of the first ones I saw in the photo was a landscape timber beside the edge of the pavement. Well, that's not a county road, ladies and gentlemen. That's somebody's driveway. And they just keep on coming. I want to tell you that our department, my administration, did not create these potholes, but we did create a process by which they get fixed. That process is to call dispatch, and they'll be fixed. And they'll be fixed. My administration did not create a policy that as to how sick leave is to be applied, but we have enforced the correct use of sick leave. Instead, my administration has focused on classifying road conditions to allow optimum choices in paving with a limited budget. The department of the past 37 years, focused on paving for political gain. And if you doubt that, I invite you to check in on the brag post that a former county commissioner made about paving during his reign. Our department has focused on resurfacing road using the best available technology, not stretching the budget by cutting layer thicknesses. This was common in parts of the last 37 years. It was called making them black. It's a ruse to imply more productivity than actually is there. This highway department's been applying sound maintenance techniques to good pavements to extend pavement life by nearly 60%. This highway department has concentrated on working with other county entities and municipalities in accordance with state law, not seeking favors in return. This has been a serious problem over the last 37 years. This highway department has focused on hiring and promoting the best credentialed candidates for many complex jobs within the department. The hiring of a foreman's or a commissioner's son or kin is one of the most problematic processes in this department over the last 37 years. A vote for the new department, Jim Belgeri, is a vote for the new way. A vote for the opponent is a vote for the old way. I seek your vote.
Mr. Murray, in closing, what remarks would you like to make to the audience?
First of all, I want to thank the young Republicans. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you, Mark. I'll say this. The young Republicans, these men and women who make up the young Republicans, they are our future office holders of Sullivan County. and I commend you. Closing comments. In the last 3.5 years, the Highway Department has paved roughly around 20 miles of road a year. As my opponent called it, in the old days, we was paving 40 plus. So maybe the old ways work. Paving roads at a 20-mile a year process, that puts the roads at a 45-year cycle. Asphalt cannot last 45 years. That's why I think it's very important to take some of this surplus money, let's put it into paving. Let's pave these roads. We've got my opponent, he started a second paving crew. Excellent idea. So let's put these boots back on the ground. Let's get out there and let's pave some roads. And if I'm elected, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And with the experience of the men who work there, they can get the job done. They've got my total confidence. In closing, vote for Scott Murray is a vote for Sullivan County. Thank you.
Mr. Belgeri, Mr. Murray, on behalf of the Sullivan County Young Republicans, we would like to thank both of you for coming out and joining us tonight. The event was live streamed on Facebook Live, and there are dozens and dozens of comments, so we would encourage both of you to check those out. The Young Republicans cannot endorse any candidate before the primary elections, and so we wish the both of you the best of luck. For the audience, thank you for attending tonight. We hope that this was educational. I'm sure that both candidates are going to stick around, so please feel free to stay and ask questions. Thank you for coming tonight. Good night. One quick announcement, there is a